The first jar sold before I had even tied the sign to the gate. It was an August morning in Kittitas County, Washington, and the line of cars had already bent around the cattle guard, past the broken windmill, past the old stone trough my great-grandmother used to fill with a hand pump. I was standing behind a plywood table with a roll of cash in my pocket and 32 cases of apricot preserves stacked under a shade tarp. A woman with silver hair and a canvas grocery bag picked up one jar, turned it in the sunlight, and asked me where the fruit came from. I pointed behind her. To the pale strip of ground everybody in town had called dead for almost 50 years. She looked at the field. Then she looked back at me like I had made a joke, so I unscrewed the lid. She put a spoonful on her tongue. She froze. Not because it was sweet, because for 1 second she looked younger. Then she closed her eyes and whispered, "My mother used to put this on biscuits." That was the first time I understood what we had actually grown. Not fruit, not jam, not even a crop. We had grown a memory back out of ground the bank said had no value. 3 years earlier, a man from Cascade Farm Credit stood in that same field, kicked at the white crust on the soil, and told me to stop before I embarrassed myself. He called the land chemically tired. He called the orchard impossible. He called me 19 years old and alone, which were the only true things he said all afternoon. But he was wrong about the field, and he was wrong about alone, because the proof was already inside the house. It had been waiting in a church hymnal, wrapped in wax paper, hidden under the loose board of a piano bench for 14 years. All I had to do was sit down where my grandmother used to sit, press one key that no longer made a sound, and listen to what the house gave back. I came to the Keene place on September 3rd, 2021. I remember the date because the county clerk had stamped it in blue ink on the deed, and because I had nothing else in my life official enough to trust. My mother had died that spring after 12 years of kidney disease. My father had remarried in Spokane and had the good manners to disappear before I was old enough to remember his voice. That left me with a rusted pickup, $418 in a checking account, and 38 acres of orchard ground no one had harvested since before I was born. The house was white once. By the time I unlocked it, it was the color of old flour. The porch leaned toward the irrigation ditch. The barn roof had folded in at one corner. The pump shed smelled like mouse nests and hot dust. And behind the house on the north bench stood 8 rows of dead apricot trunks, gray and twisted, each one cut back hard as if somebody had tried to make it live by sheer force. I did not come because I wanted to farm. I came because I had nowhere else to go. There is a difference. Wanting makes you brave. Nowhere else makes you useful. The first night I slept on the couch because the bedroom still felt occupied. Not by ghosts exactly, by habits. My grandmother's sweater was hanging behind the pantry door. Her reading glasses were still beside the kitchen radio. There was a calendar on the wall from 2007, still turned to October, with one square circled twice in red pencil. Dig before rain. I did not know what that meant. I barely knew how to start the propane stove, but the house knew. That is what old farmhouses do. They hold the things people were too busy, or too tired, or too heartbroken to explain. On the second afternoon, I tried to move the upright piano in the front room. It had belonged to my grandmother, Miriam Keene, though I had only met her twice when I was little, both times at hospitals. The piano was out of tune so badly that each note sounded like a question. When I pushed it away from the wall, something slid inside the bench. I opened it. There were old hymn books, a tin of sewing needles, a photograph of my grandmother standing beside a young apricot tree, and a loose board in the bottom that lifted when I pressed on one corner. Under it was a parcel wrapped in wax paper and tied with butcher's string. My name was written on the outside. Not Eli, not Mr. Keene. Elijah, when you are ready. My grandmother was the only person who had ever used my full name. My hands went cold before I opened it. Inside was a folded note, a brass irrigation key, and a green ledger with the word North written on the cover in her careful block letters. The note was dated November 18, 2007, 2 months before she died. Elijah, if this found you, then the land did too. Do not believe the men who say the bench is ruined. They were never patient enough to find out what kind of ruined it is. Find Nora Vale on Manistash Road. She has the books I could not keep here. Tell her I sent you. Then start at the first page. That was all. No blessing, no apology. No explanation of why a dead woman had left me an irrigation key to a ditch that had not run in 20 years. Just a name, Nora Vale. I found her the next morning. Manistash Road climbs out of town and loses its manners after the second cattle grate. The asphalt breaks, the shoulder disappears, the mailboxes get meaner. Nora Vale's house was a low brown place behind 3 Lombardy poplars, with a chicken pen beside the carport and a blue tarp over half the roof. She was on the porch when I pulled in, shelling peas into an enamel bowl. 86 years old, maybe 90. Sharp shoulders, white hair cut short, eyes like she had spent her whole life watching men underestimate weather. I got out of the truck with my grandmother's note in my hand. Before I could speak, she said, "You have Miriam's worried mouth." Then she set the peas down. "About time," she said. I told her my name. She said she knew my name. I told her my grandmother had left me a note. She said she knew that too. Then she opened the screen door and said, "The kettle is already on. It has been, in one way or another, for 14 years. Her kitchen smelled like black tea, diesel soap, and old cardboard. On the table were 5 boxes, not one. 5 fruit boxes from the co-op, each one labeled by year. 1979 to 1984, 1985 to 1989, 1990 to 1998, 1999 to 2007. After Miriam, I stood in the doorway staring at them. Nora looked at my face and nodded. "That is the correct expression," she said. "Most men look like that when they realize women have been keeping minutes without inviting them." She opened the first box. Inside were ledgers, seed envelopes, Polaroids, soil test sheets, letters, water schedules, maps drawn on grocery bags, and a bundle of envelopes tied with blue yarn. My grandmother's handwriting covered all of it. Nora placed one ledger in front of me and put her hand flat on the cover. "This is not family gossip," she said. "This is agricultural record. Your grandmother spent 28 years proving that the North Bench was not dead. It was misread." I sat down because my knees had started to feel like borrowed equipment. The first ledger opened to a map of the North Bench. 38 acres total property. 11 acres mapped in pale pencil. 4 test rows marked with X's. Beside the map, my grandmother had written, "White crust is not the enemy. Shallow roots are." Under that, "Do not fight the bench from the top. Teach the roots to go under it." I read that line 3 times. Nora watched me read it. Then she said, "Your grandmother was the first person in this valley to understand that the soil was telling the truth. Everybody else just hated what it was saying." The story started in 1979, when Miriam Keene was 61 years old. My grandfather Owen had already given up on the North Bench. His father had tried wheat, then barley, then alfalfa. All of it came up weak. By midsummer, the leaves would yellow, the roots would burn, and a white mineral crust would gather along the furrows like frost that refused to melt. The county called it alkali ground. The bank called it marginal. The men at the feed store called it Owen's mistake. My grandmother called it unfinished. In March of 1979, she drove to a nursery outside Wenatchee and bought 24 apricot whips, Tilton, Moore Park, Chinese. and 8 harglografts on Manchurian rootstock, because an extension bulletin from Montana suggested they could tolerate cold and alkaline stress better than common stock. She planted them at dawn while my grandfather was hauling hay for a neighbor. She amended half the holes with gypsum, half with nothing. She marked each tree with copper wire and wrote down the depth of every root. When Owen found them 3 days later, he told her apricots did not belong on that bench. She wrote in the ledger that night, "Owen believes belonging is declared by men." The roots disagree. By May, 21 of the 24 trees were alive. By October, 19. After the first winter, 16. The harglow on Manchurian stock did best. Not perfectly, best. And on a failed piece of land, best is enough to start a religion. Nora smiled when I read that sentence. "That one was mine," she said. "There were 6 women at the beginning. Miriam Keene, Nora Vale, Sally Ostrom, who kept books for the irrigation district, June Hart, who ran the fruit stand on Highway 10, Lena Pike, who taught chemistry at the high school before people decided mothers should not have opinions about molecules, and Odetta Ruiz, who could graft a branch cleaner than any man in the valley and charged half as much because men thought speed was the same thing as skill. They called themselves the Bench Orchard Circle. Not publicly, not on paper anyone official would respect. Once a month they met at my grandmother's kitchen table and compared notes. Water timing, root depth, gypsum rates, bud swell, frost dates, bricks readings, which trees curled first, which leaves held color longest, which men were talking too loudly at the Grange about land they had never knelt on. By 1984, they had 38 surviving trees. By 1986, 112. By 1988, 270. And in July of 1989, my grandmother sold her first real crop. 480 pounds of apricots from a strip of land 3 banks had refused to lend against. Sally's records show the numbers: 480 pounds harvested, 0.72 soles per pound wholesale, $346.40 gross, sugar content averaging 16.8 bricks, 21% higher than the valley average that week. Nora had kept the receipt. It was still in the box, small, yellowed, almost nothing. But when she placed it in my hand, I understood that I was holding the first official proof that every man in the valley had been wrong. Then I turned the page, and everything changed. August 2nd, 1989. Miriam's handwriting was smaller, tighter. "Eli, if you ever read this, read slowly. The nursery row is gone, all of it. The leaves blackened from the tips inward. The soil at the lower furrow tested hot this morning. Not ordinary alkali, drain brine. Someone opened the southwest gate in the night and pushed tailwater from the holding pond across the nursery row. Owen says it was an accident. Sally says no one opens that gate by accident. I have no proof fit for court. Only watermarks, a broken latch, and the knowledge that a woman can be correct and still be told she is making trouble." I stopped reading. The kitchen went quiet except for the kettle ticking as it cooled. I asked Nora who opened the gate. She did not answer right away. She looked out the window toward the chicken pen. Then she said, "We had a name." I waited. "Cal Voss," she said. I knew the name because every fence line in that part of the county seemed to carry it. Voss Orchard Company, Voss Cold Storage, Voss Packing, Voss Road. Cal Voss had been dead for 16 years, but his son, Raymond, still owned the property east of mine. Raymond Voss was the man who had stopped by the farm 3 times in my first month to tell me I should sell before winter. He brought coffee once. He brought a list of equipment auctions. He brought kindness that felt like a warning. Nora watched me put the pieces together. "Raymond was 27 that summer," she said. "He did not open that gate. I am telling you that now because anger likes to jump generations when it is tired. What did my grandmother do? Nora breathed in slowly. She shut the north bench down. Not because she believed the land had failed, because she believed the county would make sure she failed twice if she tried again. The boxes did not end in 1989. That was what broke me. The women kept going. Quietly. Not on my grandmother's land. On garden plots. Back corners. School greenhouse benches. 5-gallon buckets. Rows hidden behind corn. Nora tested rootstocks for alkaline tolerance until arthritis took the strength out of her thumbs. Odetta taught 2 daughters and 1 grandson to graft apricot scions on Manchurian stock. Lena kept the chemistry sheets and recalculated gypsum rates every time the university published new guidance. June tracked prices and wrote business projections for an orchard that did not exist. Sally, from inside the irrigation district, copied water records by hand and marked which gates had been opened in 1989. They were not waiting for justice. Justice to them was too theatrical. They were waiting for someone with the deed. Someone young enough to lose sleep. Someone foolish enough to look at white dirt and see instructions. By sunset, I had filled 12 pages of my own notebook. Nora gave me the first 2 boxes and kept the rest. Not because I do not trust you, she said. Because a hungry person should not be handed the whole pantry at once. She walked me to the porch. The wind had come up. It moved through the poplars in a dry silver rush. Before I left, she touched my sleeve. Elijah, she said, your grandmother did not leave you a miracle. She left you homework. That night, I sat at Miriam's kitchen table until 3 in the morning. I read ledgers until the numbers stopped being numbers and started being a voice. Soil pH, 8.4 in the upper crust, 7.6 at 18 inches. Electrical conductivity highest in the first 6 inches after dry heat, lower after deep winter flush. Water early, less often. Force roots down. Gypsum before fall rain, not after. Never trust a leaf before checking the root. I walked outside before dawn with a flashlight and a shovel. At the north bench, I dug beside one of the dead trunks. 6 inches down, the soil was pale and bitter. 12 inches down, darker. At 20 inches, I found old feeder roots, not dead like the trunk, dry, thin, but still there. My grandmother had written that apricot roots remember depth. I did not know if that was science or poetry. By then, I had stopped caring which. I put my hand in the hole and said, I found it. No one answered, but the wind changed, and that was enough for a boy with no sleep. Cascade Farm Credit sent their first man in February of 2022. His name was Martin Pell. Gray suit, clean boots, hands that had never fixed a leak in the dark. He drove out in a white truck, looked at the north bench for 14 minutes, and told me the bank would not finance sentimental agriculture. I had brought him soil reports. He barely glanced at them. I had brought the old ledgers. He said private notes were not collateral. I had brought a cash flow projection June Hart had prepared in 1991, and that Nora and I had updated with current nursery costs. He said projections by retired women would not satisfy committee standards. Then he kicked at the crust and said, you would be better off leasing this for grazing and getting a job in Ellensburg. I wanted to hate him. But hatred requires spare energy. I had none. After he left, I drove to Nora's and told her. She listened without blinking. Then she picked up the phone. Not a cell phone. A wall phone with a cord long enough to cross the kitchen. She called Lena Pike first. Then Odetta Ruiz. Then June Hart's grandson, because June had died in 2016, but had left her records in a fireproof safe with instructions taped to the handle. Within a week, there were 4 cars in Nora's yard and 3 women at her kitchen table. Nora was 86, Lena was 82, Odetta was 79. June's grandson, Tom, was 41 and looked terrified to be carrying a box his grandmother had labeled, "For the Keen Child." They brought everything. Receipts, water records, photographs, bud counts. A 1993 letter from a Washington State horticulture professor saying the North Bench experiment was commercially plausible if irrigation and rootstock choices remain disciplined. A photocopied chart showing that Manchurian root apricots in alkaline trials survived at nearly double the rate of standard stock. A handwritten list of 312 names of local customers who had bought Miriam's apricots in 1989. Lena placed a thick folder in front of me and tapped it twice. "There," she said. "Now it is not sentimental." I opened it. On the first page, in her old teacher's handwriting, she had written, "The land was not failed, the reading was failed." That became the first sentence of the loan application. The second bank meeting was not with Martin Pell. I requested the branch manager. Her name was Denise Rowe. She was in her 50s with short dark hair and reading glasses on a chain. She did not smile much, which I trusted. I wore my grandfather's wool jacket. Odetta had mended the elbow. Nora had pressed the collar. Lena had told me not to apologize before I sat down. Denise Rowe opened the folder. She expected 30 pages. I gave her 186. Soil history, rootstock selection, irrigation rehabilitation budget, 3-year establishment plan, 7-year yield projection, letters of support, water district records, a $9. 400 private note pledged by the remaining members of the Bench Orchard Circle and their families. A signed statement from Odetta Ruiz agreeing to oversee graft selection. A signed statement from Lena Pike translating the soil chemistry into language no loan officer could pretend was decorative. Denise read for a long time. She did not say, "Impossible." She did not say sentimental. She did not kick the dirt because we were indoors and she seemed too intelligent for theater. At the end, she closed the folder and said, "Who taught you to prepare a file like this?" I said, "Women nobody listened to." She looked up. Then she said, "That is often where the best records come from." The committee took 3 weeks. The approval letter came in a blue envelope on March 28, 2022. $62,000, 12-year term. Equipment and East Pasture as collateral. First payment deferred 18 months. I read the letter on the porch. Then I sat on the steps and put my head in my hands. Not because the money solved everything. Money never solves land, it only gives you permission to begin. We planted on April 23rd, 1,600 apricot whips, Harglow, Tilton, and a trial block of Tomcott, all on Manchurian or Myrobalan interstem stock, because Odetta said a good orchard never trusts one answer. The trees arrived wrapped in wet burlap on a flatbed from a nursery outside Wenatchee. 34 boxes, roots pale and sleeping. The north bench had been ripped to 30 inches, amended with gypsum, and flushed twice with winter water. The old ditch had been cleared. The waste gate had a new lock. The brass key my grandmother left me fitted. That detail still makes me believe in things I cannot defend in public. By 8 in the morning, there were 16 people in the field. Nora, Lena, and Odetta sat under a tarp in folding chairs with clipboards because their knees had earned the right to supervise. Tom Hart ran twine lines. Denise Rowe showed up in jeans and said she had not come as a banker. Raymond Voss parked at the road and sat in his truck for 20 minutes before getting out. I saw him. Everyone saw him. No one waved. Finally, he walked across the field carrying 2 post-hole diggers and a 5-gallon water jug. He stopped in front of me. "I can leave," he said. I said, "Can you dig straight?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Then stay." That was the first piece we made. Not forgiveness. A hole in the ground. He worked without speaking until noon. Then, while we were eating sandwiches beside the ditch, he sat next to me and stared at the locked gate. "My father opened it," he said. No introduction, no softening, Just the sentence that had waited 33 years to become heir. I did not answer. Raymond kept looking at the gate. I was in the yard that night. I heard his truck come back after midnight. I saw mud on the tires. Tailwater mud, not road mud. The next morning your grandmother's nursery row was black. His voice did not shake. That made it worse. I told myself I was young. I told myself I did not know enough. Then I got older and realized cowardice often disguises itself as uncertainty. I asked why he had spent months telling me to sell. He closed his eyes. Because I watched what it did to Miriam. Not the land, the silence afterward. I thought if you never tried, I would not have to watch this place hurt another Keen. That was not your choice, I said. No, he said. It was not. He reached into his coat and took out an envelope. Inside was a cashier's check for $18,000. He had sold a piece of equipment. He said the money was not apology. He said apology was too small a word. He said his wife, who had died 6 years earlier, made him promise that if Miriam's land ever woke up again, he would help it wake. I held the check. My first instinct was to refuse it, because pride is very loud when it has no plan. Then I looked across the field, at Nora under the tarp, at Lena correcting tree spacing with a pencil, at Odetta showing Denise Rowe how to spread roots without curling them, at 1,600 trees that did not care who had been wronged. Trees care about water, depth, light, and whether the hand above them does the work. I folded the check back into the envelope. We do not talk about this like a purchase, I said. Raymond nodded. We do not talk about it at all, he said. Then he stood up, picked up the post hole digger, and went back to the row. By sundown, we had planted 100 trees. By headlamp, 600. At the last tree, Nora stood from her chair slowly. Tom offered her his arm. She ignored it. She walked to the end of row 1, bent down, and pressed one hand to the soil. For Miriam, she said. Lena said it next, then Odetta, then Tom, though he had never met her, then Denise Rowe, then Raymond Voss, so quietly I almost did not hear him. For Miriam. The first frost came 12 nights later, May 5th. The forecast said 38. At 2 in the morning it was 29. By 2:14, Lena was calling my phone. By 2:19, I was in the pump shed in socks and a coat, trying to start a motor that had chosen the worst night of my life to remember. It was old. The frost sprinklers coughed once, then quit. I reset the breaker. Nothing. The pressure gauge jumped and fell. The intake had sucked grit from the old ditch and clogged the screen. 1,600 new trees stood in the dark with their first green tissue exposed to air cold enough to kill it. I ran to the ditch with a flashlight. The beam shook so badly I could barely see the gate. I thought of my grandmother's nursery row turning black in the morning. I thought of all the women who had waited. I thought, with sudden shame, that maybe Martin Pell had been right about one thing. I was 19. Then headlights swung across the field. Raymond Voss drove straight over the pasture in his old Dodge with a portable pump, 2 hoses and a propane work light in the bed. Behind him came Denise Rowe. Behind her, Tom Hart. Behind him, Odetta's daughter with coffee and gloves. No one asked who called whom. That is one of the mercies of a rural county. News travels faster than pride. Raymond dropped the portable pump beside the ditch and shouted for me to hold the light. His hands moved like a man who had spent a lifetime repairing things he could not name. Tom pulled the screen. Denise primed the hose. Odetta's daughter wrapped the exposed line with burlap and poured warm water over the coupling. At 2:51, the first sprinkler head turned. At 2:54, the second line caught. By 3:07, the whole north bench was under water. The ice formed fast. Every twig became glass. Every small leaf became a bright frozen coin. It looked like we had destroyed the orchard in order to save it. That is how frost irrigation works. You coat the living tissue in freezing water, and the change from liquid to ice releases just enough heat to hold the bud at 32 degrees while the air falls below it. My grandmother had written that in 1982. Lena had underlined it in red. In the dark, watching ice build on the trees, I finally understood why both of them had used the same sentence underneath. Counterintuitive does not mean wrong. By morning, we had lost 94 trees, not 1,600, 94. I wrote the number in the ledger with hands that could barely hold a pen. Raymond stood beside me, wet to the waist, smelling like diesel and ditch water. He looked at the iced rows and said, "Your grandmother would have known what to do." I said, "She did." Then I showed him the page. Year 1 was mostly work no customer sees. Replace dead trees, repair emitters, test soil after every flush. Pull weeds by hand because young apricot roots hate competition more than they hate insult. I took a part-time job at the feed store and spent every other hour on the north bench. Nora came every Friday in June and sat in the shade with a ledger on her lap. She could not walk the rows anymore, so I brought leaves to her. She would turn them over, study the veins, and say things like, "This one is thirsty, not sick," or "That tree is lying to you from the top. Check the root." Lena taught me to read soil reports without flinching. Odetta taught me to graft. Raymond replaced 300 feet of ditchboard and never once mentioned the check. Denise Rowe visited twice and pretended it was normal for a branch manager to inspect leaf curl in work boots. In year 2, we got 14 pounds of fruit, 14 pounds from 1,600 trees. I carried them to Nora in a wooden crate. She touched one apricot with 2 fingers. Then she laughed in a way that startled both of us. "They are ugly," she said. "They were small, speckled, lopsided." "Good," she said. "Pretty fruit is often the least honest." In year 3, we got 620 pounds. In year 4, 4,800. Enough for the first preserves, enough to open the gate, enough for a woman with a canvas grocery bag to taste 1 spoonful and remember her mother's biscuits. Opening day was August 10th, 2025. Nora did not live to see it. She'd that February in her sleep in the brown house behind the poplars. At her funeral, the pastor talked about church attendance, casseroles, and her stubborn devotion to the choir, even after her voice failed. All true, none of it enough. So after the service, I drove home and wrote down everything else. The way she tested rootstocks in coffee cans. The way she corrected bankers without raising her voice. The way she waited 14 years with boxes in her kitchen and never mistook waiting for doing nothing. I put that notebook in the piano bench, beside Miriam's green ledger. Not hidden, placed. There is a difference. On opening morning, Nora's niece arrived with a sealed envelope. Inside was a quitclaim deed to 2.5 acres bordering the north bench. Nora had owned it since 1974. Nobody knew why she kept it. Now I did. The note inside was short. "Elijah, your grandmother wanted 1 more row. I could not give it to her while she lived. Give it to the work. Do not waste good ground on being surprised, Nora." I had to sit down before I could finish reading. By noon, the parking area was full. By 1, we were out of small jars. By 3, Denise Rowe was washing spoons at the pump sink. Odetta sat under the shade tarp with her daughter, correcting people who called the preserves jam. Raymond stood near row 12, hands in his pockets, watching customers walk between trees his father had once tried to erase. He did not look forgiven. He looked useful. That is better, I think. At the end of the day, after the last car pulled away, I walked the north bench alone. The trees were still young, but they had begun to cast real shade. The white crust was not gone. That matters. Stories like this are often told as if love fixes chemistry. It does not. The soil still pushes salt upward in August. The ditch still silts after hard rain. The bank still wants its payment every month. The trees still have to be pruned, irrigated, tested, thinned, and watched. But the roots are deeper now. That is the whole difference. The surface still tells one story. The roots tell another. In Miriam's last ledger, on a page dated 4 weeks before she died, she wrote, "A woman's work is often mistaken for disappearance because she does so much of it below the visible line. Seeds under soil, receipts in drawers, letters in boxes, water moving in darkness, roots learning where to hold. One day someone sees the fruit and calls it sudden. Let them. The root knows how long it took." I framed that page and hung it above the piano. The piano still does not play correctly. I keep it anyway. Every August, when the first apricots blush orange against the gray-green leaves, I open the bench and read the first line of the green ledger before I go outside. White crust is not the enemy. Shallow roots are. Then I take the brass key my grandmother left me, walk to the ditch, unlock the gate, and send water across the north bench. Not too much. Not too little. Deep enough to teach the roots where to go. The line is past the windmill now, past the stone trough, past the cattle guard and onto the county road. A woman with silver hair has just bought 6 jars. She is telling her daughter they taste like her mother's kitchen in 1958. Raymond is restacking boxes without being asked. Odetta is laughing under the tarp. Denise Rowe is pretending not to cry over a biscuit. And somewhere beneath all of us, under the white crust, under the old wound, under the place everyone called ruined, the roots are doing what my grandmother always knew they could do. They are holding. They were holding the whole time.